There are tax changes to curb the federal deficit if Democrats consider entitlement reform. Eric Cantor, Virginia Congressman, House Majority Leader, good to see you, and hope you had a good Thanksgiving.
Very nice. Good to be here.
Thanks for coming back to New York. Put all this other stuff to the side. Can you say right now whether or not there will be a deal on December 31st?
I sure hope so. I sure hope so, because we know the law is, after that point, come January 1, 2013, taxes are going to go up for everyone. It is not just going to be what the president wants to continue to say in terms of raising taxes on the wealthy. It's everything. So we know that that will happen. We don't want that to happen. That's a punishing strategy. We want to try and avoid going off the fiscal cliff. And I hope that, my counterparts on the other side of the aisle will join us, and that the president will step up and make sure this doesn't happen.
That was not a yes. That was a maybe.
Again, there is a process at work, Bill. In Washington, it's the White House, the House, and the Senate. I think that pretty much on our side of the aisle and in the House, we want to make sure we don't go over the cliff. What you hear from folks like Patty Murray, the incoming chairwoman of the Budget Committee in the Senate, is she thinks we ought to go off the cliff. So that's sort of what we're dealing with right now, and I hope that reasonable minds will prevail and realize taxes are going up on everyone, and we don't want that to happen. It's not good for our economy. It's not good for hardworking taxpayers of this country.
The Republicans that were on the talk shows, Peter King was one of them. The door appears to be cracking, at least on the right, when it comes to revenue, not tax rates, but tax revenue. Here's Peter King on that.
President Obama won. He won fair and square. We won the House. We won it fair and square. Democrats still control the Senate. Slight edge to the Democrats. Bottom line is, though, it's over with. Let's find a way to get it resolved as much as possible between now and the end of the year.
And so what they're talking about, again, is tax revenue. And the House speakers talked about that, John Boehner. Mitt Romney campaigned on it.
Right, and John Boehner went to the White House 10 days or so ago and put revenues on the table. And again, we don't think that raising tax rates is something that's good for this economy, that will help grow jobs. And so what we have said is there are ways for the federal government to have more revenue if we grow this economy, engage in tax reform. That's the proposal we've got on the table. But let's remember what all this is about. You could put taxes at 100% on the wealthy and not solve the problem of the spending. We have got to get to the problem and stop digging this hole in terms of spending money we don't have. You're running $1 trillion of deficit every year plus. That's the proposals we put on the table to stop that. We're looking at the president to come forward with his ideas.
Not just the president, too, but you're looking at Democrats in Congress, be it the House or the Senate. Where are they willing to give when it comes to entitlement reform on Medicaid, Medicare, and possibly even Social Security?
And that's the question, Bill. That's what we've got to see from Nancy Pelosi, Harry Reid, and the president. Where is their proposal to actually fix the problem? Because raising taxes is not going to fix the problem. We've always believed that raising taxes is going to be harmful to a small businessman or woman in creating a job. And, I tell this story about a cook that I met in an airport. When he told me, he came up and said, please do something about the problem in Washington. We need more jobs. He said, I had to take a cook's position because I couldn't find a job that best met my skill set in the construction industry. I want to go and find that job to make the kind of money that I feel I'm worth. But if you raise taxes on the small businessman or woman who's creating that job, that is creating less of a likelihood that you're going to create the job.
So you have this dance now, and you're trying to thread this needle, the difference between raising tax revenues and raising tax rates. And there is a distinction. I get it. But do your constituents get it? Are they going to look at you and say, hey, you guys caved?
Well, I think at the end of the day, they elected and re-elected a House majority based on our trying to resolve the problem, trying to fix the problem. And right now, the problem still remains. Unemployment is too high. The growth rate in this economy is too slow. How are we going to fix that? That's what the folks at home are looking at. They are not clamoring to say, hey, let me pay more money into Washington, especially if Washington can't get a hold of the underlying problem on the entitlements and the unfunded liabilities in these Social Security, Medicare, Medicaid programs.
This caught my eye from last Friday, I do believe. House Speaker John Boehner, writing in the Cincinnati Enquirer, the president's health care law adds a massive, expensive, unworkable government program at a time when our national debt already exceeds the size of our country's entire economy. That's why I've been clear that the law has to stay on the table as both parties discuss ways to solve our nation's massive debt challenge. In these negotiations, is Obamacare being negotiated?
If the president is serious about joining us and fixing the problem, he ought to be putting Obamacare on the table. There's no question in my mind. That is the largest expansion of government programs.
But can you say at the moment that that's being talked about?
All I can say is the President bill has got to get serious. The Speaker is correct that Obamacare is such an expansion of government spending and involvement in folks' lives, it ought to be on the table.
You wonder what he is willing to concede on that. That would be a very interesting conversation. There's these articles now being written ever since the election that the president has more clout now. Well, do you see it that way?
Well, I think, look, but you can also see the fact that we were reelected as majority in the House. And so we also have a say in all this. And Obamacare remains wildly unpopular. And it's wildly unpopular because I think people understand they don't want rationing by some bureaucrat in Washington so far as their health care is concerned. I think most Americans want health care that is patient-centered between them and their doctors. So when you look at Obamacare and what really I think we can see about making that law go away, there are some provisions in there. There's taxes on the medical device industry that cause people to lose access perhaps to certain kinds of treatment that will actually provide a lot of harm to job growth in a very growing industry in this country in the medical device area. There's also this thing called the Independent Payment Advisory Board that is the essence of Washington controlling all that health care is about in this country. There's bipartisan support to do away with that. Now, will the president sign it? Yet to be seen.
Eric Cantor, thank you. We are going to work through this for the next 34 or 35 days and possibly beyond. So we'll be in touch with you and many others. Thanks. Eric Cantor, thank you. All right. Martha.
So, as President Obama